Key, thank you very much for joining me today. First of all, just how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. In the early stages of ankle rehab, which is very boring to be honest. Still in the protective boot, so restricted, like walking about and mobility. So it's yeah, very basic stuff at the minute, but it's going well.
What's it like for? You're quite young still. You're quite a young player. You've had a few injuries in your time. What's that kind of side of things like for a footballer?
Uh, to be honest, it's probably the worst part. The worst part is being injured, not being able to train or play. Luckily, at my time at Barrow, I haven't suffered too many injuries, but it's frustrating for me that I'm not going to be able to finish the season out on the pitch after we've been in good form as well recently, and I was really enjoying my football. So, yeah, it's frustrating, but it's part and parcel of the game.
Yeah, how do you cope with it in terms of when you are injured, trying to get back? You obviously want to be back as soon as possible, but at the same time, trying to be careful and not come back too early.
It's massive. You don't want to. If you do that and come back too early, you're just out for longer. So it turns into a longer injury, which is the last thing you want. The biggest thing for me with it is just when you're away from being in, you kind of need to try switch off from it, because it kind of it takes over your life anyways, even when you're fit. But when you're injured, it's like not in a good way, because there's nothing else you can really do. It is just about time and rest. So it's just kind of trying to switch off and still be able to do stuff that you enjoy.
I'm going to switch away from injuries, go back to the right at the start of your career. Talk me through a bit about just what that young Kian Spence was doing in terms of the footballing world.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was kicking a ball before I could walk. I'm pretty sure my dad was standing me up and moving my leg forward, all the stuff that a father would do, who loves the game and wants their son to be in the game. So yeah, I took it on from an early age. I think he took me to a place called Brazilian Soccer School when I was on my 5th birthday, and I think I sat on his lap the whole session and cried because I was scared to go and join in with the other kids. But that only lasted one session, and then from then on I loved it. That was a futsal place, so the little heavy balls inside, just loads of skills, and I did that until I was about 12 years old, and that probably shaped how I played, especially from a young age, just because it was all dribbling skills, never at an academy until I was 10, 11. So it was all I knew was dribbling with my mates, doing all fancy skills. So that was probably kind of a different upbringing through it. But we played a few games against academies when we were at Brazilian, and it was kind of I remember going to Middlesbrough, going to Leeds, all them types of teams, and we had a good side, but it was a completely different game. In the name of the thing, it was trying to be Brazilian futsal. So it was all of us were kind of individuals, showing our bits instead of it being a structured team. So it was looking back now, it's an enjoyable way to come through it. And then I went to York when I was, I think maybe 10. And I was I'm not the tallest now, but I was really small. So I played on the wing in the year above, and I remember scoring a couple of goals, but then the next season moving down to my own age group where I could play centre mid, and that was the start of me kind of playing midfield, because when you're young you play every position, don't you? I think I was centre back playing for my local team when I was younger, and then ended up top. So yeah, it was playing my own age group at York, and then going to Middlesbrough the following season when I was 12 is when I started playing midfield. But yeah, it was Brazilian, panel sports, and then I moved on to York, where I was there for a year and a half before I was at Middlesbrough, and then that was kind of under 12s till under 18s where I progressed through. So that was all my youth really.
Obviously Middlesbrough, a very elite academy. At what age you kind of realise that essentially can be a career, it can be more than just a hobby?
It's a weird one. Every kid, especially every kid who's in an academy, thinks that they're going to be a professional footballer, because you know you're in one of the elite football places like for your age, so you kind of know that you're doing well each year that you are in the system. So you do always, that's kind of just what you get used to, that's what almost your identity becomes, so you can never kind of see that changing. I'd say after your scholarship is when you kind of get a gauge from it. You always have kind of that mindset that you're going to be a professional footballer, but until you go like through your apprenticeship, and especially as soon as you start playing your first bit of men's football, it's almost kind of a like fantasy. You know, you can only like dreaming about it and picturing it in your head, and it always does seem quite far away. But then when you do end up playing them first 10 minutes and you do get a bit older, to be honest, it's like it like just happens as it does with time going on, and then it kind of just like pans out how it does, and then you just like vision kind of, if you're lucky, comes into reality a bit.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, like you say, everyone in the academy believes they're gonna make it as a professional footballer, and obviously it's such a small minority which actually do. What's that moment like when then you do get released, in terms of, is there a lot of support there, or is it kind of you've got to find your own way now?
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one with me, because I got offered another year, but as a third year scholarship. So you can either get a third year scholarship or your first pro contract, and a third year scholarship is kind of like a way to keep you in the system for another year, in a view to then give you a professional deal to kind of like see a bit more of you. So that's one of the reasons why. So I dropped down to Scarborough at the start, but there's a lot of things to do with, I won't go into like the boring details, but a lot of things to do with like moving from one academy to another when you've been offered another deal. It's not as simple as just going for free. So that's initially why I went in the route of going to non-league. And looking back now, it's the best decision that I ever made. But yeah, it shaped my career in a very different way, having to do that.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, you went to non-league at a very young age then. What are those initial experiences like in the Northern Premier League, I think?
I was very naive. I'll have been 18 years old, like I said, at Middlesbrough for 6 or 7 years, and never played a first team minute anywhere. So I remember, obviously, I didn't know what the level was like. I didn't know what League 1 or League 2 was like at that time, so it was very like into the unknown for me. I went in pre-season at Scarborough, and we played, who did we play? One of the teams was like Bridlington, and I think it was one of the like local teams that they play every year was another one. And I remember like feeling like I had a lot of time, thinking it was going to be a doddle, to be honest, without sounding too bad. But it's pre-season, so it is always a bit different. But because that was my first experience, I thought that's what the actual season was going to be like. I remember my first game was against Buxton, played centre mid, and I was playing actually as a holding midfielder at that point. And I remember thinking it was going to be like pre-season, everyone passing the ball about, like getting on the ball, playing, thinking it was going to be like a really good like footballing league. And then, wow, I was wrong. We played against who was it now? It was like a Radcliffe or someone like that, and it was away, and I got taken off at half time because I just got absolutely bullied. It was like raining, pouring down, and I was just like a little skinny 18-year-old playing centre midfield, just getting bullied by, like, I'm sure it was like a personal trainer or something who was playing midfield against me, and he literally just ragdolled me about the whole game. So I got like an early awakening like quickly in that league, and I ended up playing right back most of the season because it was a lot of like back to front, no real football, and I'm not the best in the air, like now being 24, so when I was 18 you can only imagine how poor I'll have been. So yeah, I played right back for most of the season, and unfortunately the season got canned in middle of March because it was the COVID year. So yeah, it was only nine months, so it was short and sweet, but I learned a lot in it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of learning, how did you adapt your game? I mean, you say you changed position, but in terms of what attributes did you have to also change to fit in that kind of system?
I think it was just mindset of it, really. It was, in academy, it's a lot of playing how the first team's going to play, which is football. It's the ball being on the floor, it's like patterns of play, receiving it on the back foot, whereas that was like, it was men's football, so it was like winning football, like people were in, you know, in jobs, like they had to stay in the team, they had to earn some money. So it was more just kind of learning how to win, but also learning how to keep my place in a team. And a lot of that is like being effective and not making mistakes. So instead of trying things that might look pretty on the eye, it was more just learning how to play effective men's football, really. So yeah, I probably went in with the idea of like looking pretty on the ball, looking good, getting goals, getting assists, and it finished with me just learning how to be dogged, really. I always had that in an academy sense, in terms of I always felt like I worked hard and got stuck in, but when you're playing against people who are working as bricklayers and PTs on the side, who are smashing you and, do you know what I mean, like leaving elbows in on you, it's a different kind of grit that you've got to have. So yeah, I was definitely a different person after that season. I learnt a lot, as I said before, and it was mainly just knowing that it's not all going to be easy ozy. I'm going to have to like fight to make a career in this.
And then of course, next one's Halifax. A trial, was it?
It was a trial, yeah.
What are the nerves like then? Because obviously that's a part-time setup, going to a full-time. It must feel like that is your chance there to get back into full-time football.
Yeah, it was. To be honest, there was a lot of pressure on it, because I had a deal on the table from Scarborough to stay, and I wasn't working alongside it at the time, so it was at the point where if I stayed at Scarborough, I'd have had to have got another job as well. And when I went on trial at Halifax, it was kind of like, you've got a week. If you don't know in a week, like you either need to sign for us or your deal's off the table, kind of thing. So I got told that a week into my trial at Halifax. So I was kind of like, do I stay and try get a deal, or do I go back where I know I'm going to get some money and have a club? So thankfully, I stayed on my trial and got signed at Halifax, and then ended up actually going back on loan to Scarborough for a few months. But if I didn't take that risk and keep going with my trial at Halifax and went to Scarborough, I could easily still be at that level now. So I'm happy I made that decision, but I got so much support from like my mum and dad at that time, like letting me live at home without paying rent, just supporting me financially, you know, being able to get to places, because I still had my car and everything to pay for. So if I didn't have people supporting me like that, I wouldn't have been able to take them risks at the time. But thankfully it all fell together and it turned out to be a perfect move for me.
Yeah, I mean, with all of the nerves in that trial, did you feel that you actually managed to perform to your best of your abilities?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say, because I was 19 at the time, it was a different kind of thing. Like, they were looking at me as a project, so I didn't have to be perfect. It was kind of, I have like raw materials to work with. So thankfully I showed enough in that period to do that. But yeah, it was, I was in a car school as well early on, even when I was in trial, so I felt a part of that group quickly. But yeah, looking back now, there was a lot of pressure on it, but as a young lad, you're still naive to it. You don't know the responsibilities of having to pay bills as much when you've got your parents supporting you. So if it was like with what I know now, I'd have probably felt a lot more pressure with it, but luckily it was, I got good feedback early, had a couple of good games on trial, and it all fit into place quite quickly.
Yeah, and then obviously a good spell at Halifax, a lot of games of football, playoff charges. How'd you sum up your time there?
Oh, I loved it. It's a very mixed bag for me. My first year I loved, even though I only ended up playing 8 games and I think I started 1. It was because it was the still COVID lingering around. I went on loan when I signed until Christmas, but then the Scarborough season got got cancelled again. It was shambles, honestly. So luckily I'd signed for Halifax, so I could keep training with them, but because I was technically on loan at Scarborough, I wasn't able to feature in any matchday squads. And funnily enough, actually, I went on trial at York before Halifax, and I was going to sign for York, but it fell through, and York's season also got binned due to COVID, so if I'd have signed for York, I'd have had a full year without playing, because it was that league also got cancelled. So luckily that fell through. I signed for Halifax and I was able to train, get paid and play for a full year. But yeah, so I got injured as I was coming back, from a loan at Scarborough. So that delayed my debut for Halifax until March. And then, yeah, it was only a 2-month period, but I managed to get 7 games off the bench and 1 start in that, which I was buzzing about. I was so happy, and there weren't any fans as well in the stadium when I was playing, so that kind of eased me into that level. And then the season after was just unbelievable. It was class. It was I think I started the season as 4th choice midfielder, and it was under the last gaffer Pete. So it's crazy to think that I ended up playing like 40 odd games and starting most of them in a playoff charge, because I got lucky with a couple of injuries and then hit a bit of form and was able to kind of like gain that kind of trust, which I think any young player needs to get. We ended up finishing 4th, and I was carrying a bit of an injury for the last couple of months of that season, which went into our playoff game, and that was kind of 1 game too far, and I was obviously doing everything I could to play in that game. I had a fitness test before. I took as many painkillers as I could before the warm-up, and in the warm-up I couldn't kick a ball or run, so yeah, I kind of broke down a bit on the pitch and wasn't able to play, and unfortunately we got knocked out in that game against Chesterfield. And then following on to the season after that, it was that same injury, due to playing so many games a year before, kind of it hindered my off-season and start of next season. I didn't have a single pre-season game, and then and we didn't have a great start, so I was kind of rushed a bit back into it. Played a lot of games until Christmas. I think I played like 20 games back to back, and then like that injury reoccurred again, and I missed the last like 6 or 7 months of the season, and that was that's easily the toughest part of my career. Probably the toughest part of my life, to be honest, because it was one of them injuries where it was like it wasn't a certain end date of it, so it kept on being like you could be back in a month, then still bad that month, could be another month, and it just kept on going on and going on. So it wasn't like a getting your head around the process and getting back. It was kind of, you have hope, gets taken away, another bit more gets taken away. So I know it felt like there was a lot of like bitterness to the end, because I know there was a lot of debate whether I don't want to say people thought I was like faking it or thinking that I wasn't wanting to play, but I know with me leaving at the end of that season, there was a lot of rumours that it wasn't as serious as I was making out, but that was probably the toughest part for me, was people doubting that, and people who were like close to me at the club doubting that, because I'd had such a great time at the club and I gave everything I had to the club, and all I wanted to do was get it to, getting over the line with getting us promoted. So for me to not be able to do that on the pitch and show what I can do, to kind of having that relationship go a bit, it was a tough time for me. You can kind of see now how I still speak about it a couple of years later, that it still kind of bothers me that that's how it was left with me and the club. Because realistically, like, I wouldn't be in the Football League now and have the opportunity to be in the Football League without Halifax and Scarborough as well, to be honest. But yeah, it's a frustrating thing that it finished like that, but overall it's just positive memories at the club, really.
After such a tough end to it, that moment at Tranmere, how much did that feel everything was worth that, those last 7 months? It must have felt like a really complete moment then.
Yeah, it felt like an out-of-body experience, really. Like I said, I hadn't played a competitive match since the Boxing Day before, so it'd been like a long time. And honestly, with being out for that long, I was just grateful to be on the pitch. Like, I was having thoughts of, I'm going to have to retire, I'm not going to be able to play a competitive game again, which was a scary thought as a 22-year-old. So for it to be starting that game, being in a big stadium, nice pitch, first game in the EFL, to scoring a goal like that, honestly, it was surreal. Like, at the time, I couldn't even like grasp that it had gone in. So when I was walking back, for them to take kick off, I saw everyone celebrating in the far stand over. My parents were there, seeing even the dugout and everyone going like that. I remember looking at Jabo laughing because he'd been telling me to do all the set pieces, volleys from the edge of the box. So yeah, it was. You have ups and downs in football, so when you have a long bad period, for it to go to probably the best moment in my career today, it makes it all that much sweeter.
Yeah, I mean, after such a long period out as well, to have the season that you had, 10 goals, a really good season, several goal of the month contenders, obviously one goal of the month. Surely you couldn't have been expecting it to go quite as perfectly as it did last year.
Yeah, no, it was. It still surprises me now, to be honest, how well it went. Like I said, my main focus was staying fit. I did so much work in the months leading up to it, and so much work in that season with the physios to make sure I was able to get on the pitch as often as I could. Because after being injured for so long, I kind of realised that is the main thing in football, is being available and being able to play. So that was literally my only focus, was making sure my body was okay, to prolong a long season. And then that's probably why the other stuff came with it, to be honest, because I wasn't thinking about scoring goals. I wasn't thinking about, I was thinking about performing well, but that wasn't my main focus. So for everything to come with it like that, it kind of just naturally flowed. But it's like I said before, I do think with how tough the period was before, that, and how I dealt with that, I kind of think that was a reward for, getting through that period. But yeah, last season was unbelievable, and I'm just grateful it went the way it went.
Yeah, after coming across such a elite academy at Middlesbrough, and having the season you did last year, after, like we say, so long out, is it just that kind of talent? Do you feel that was just kind of within you and it just came out last year?
I'd say a bit of that, yeah. I'd say the season at Halifax, when we got the playoffs, was I had a really good season. I played well, and then because I'd been struggling with the injury the season afterwards, I was looking forward to kicking on that year, because I'd had my first full season of starting games in men's football and showed kind of what I could do. So I was excited to do that as a year older and a year more experienced. So I don't think it's just that talent coming out. I think it was almost just a year's delayed due to an injury. So I'd say I got that experience in my year at Halifax when I was playing, and then I was kind of ready to kick on and do that like I did last season. But due to my body not being able to do it, it kind of, like I said, was just prolonged. So I'm just happy that after so long not playing, that it picked up very quickly. But I'd say I scored 2 goals and 2 assists in the first 5 games last year, so that kind of settled me in to not having to perform as well in certain moments. So to be able to get that and almost settle me down and settle me into the league, I think that was a massive thing, because it kind of takes the pressure off you when you get moments like that in games.
Yeah, I mean, how good has the competition been in midfield since you've been here? We've obviously got some top midfielders in the building. We've had some top midfielders. In terms of pushing you on every day to keep that place in the starting 11, must be massive.
Oh yeah, it's huge. You can get the worst thing is when you get complacent, when you know you're going to play every week. Don't get me wrong, it's it's what you want as a player, because you want to be featuring in every game. You want to be like have that like opportunity to start as many games and show what you can do, but having people in the building that you know if you're not on it can like take your place, and like you could be out for a number of weeks. I won't say in terms of like technical ability or anything, it just keeps you mentally switched on to make sure that you are doing everything you can to perform. And if you don't have that, then that's when your performance can go like downhill, and it's quite hard to, you know, flip a switch and get that mentality right. So I'm not saying if I didn't have that competition I wouldn't have the mentality, but it almost forces you to have it, which is always a bonus.
In terms of this year as a whole, how would you sum up this year in terms of your guys' emotions? Because it's been quite a roller coaster, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been up and down, hasn't it? It's been up and down. It's hard because it's like when it's the end of the season now, I'm obviously out injured and I can have a bit more of a like outside viewpoint on it. It's been good in terms of like enjoyment factor of playing a lot of games, having good moments in the season in terms of good results, good moments personally for me with goals, and wins at big away grounds as well. So looking back now, I can look back at it as a whole, and it has been an enjoyable season, and I think there is a lot of positivity going into next season in terms of how we have like finished the campaign, especially against the top sides in the league. It's obviously not gone as we wanted it to go, especially after last year with coming so close and falling out late. Like I for one had like high aspirations this year, and I know everyone at the club did, in terms of getting playoffs, getting automatics. That's what the goal was. So for that to like fall short and then kind of be at the other end of the spectrum for a large part of the year, it's obviously not ideal, but because we've been in that situation for so long, it's kind of now a positive to be in good form at the minute, whereas for like around Christmas time it was right, we were expecting to be up there and now we're down at the bottom. So it was your expectations change and like your perspective changes on it. So when you kind of like grasp where you are in the league and can kind of think, right, let's just focus on winning games, getting as high as we can, it kind of takes away the negativity of we're not in and around playoffs, so like just being frustrated. So yeah, it'd have been nice to be fighting at the top end because I feel like we have the players to do that. I feel like we have the team to do that, but certain, like, there's never any excuses. Everyone gets injuries, everyone has factors, but yeah, I feel like if it had gone different ways at like certain parts of the season, I feel like we could have definitely challenged and done something great this season, but unfortunately it just wasn't meant to be, and hopefully next season that can be something that happens.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of personal development, like you say, obviously the ambitions was to be right at that top end of the league, but is this one of the years where you've probably learned the most about yourself, about yourself personally, because of it's not been quite the script which you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's a bit like I said when I was talking about Scarborough. It's like you go into the season with certain expectations, and especially after an off season when you haven't been playing and for a while, you kind of only remember the good things. You only remember playing well, feeling good, so you have that in your head. You're kind of expecting to be like that for the whole season coming up, and that's not a reality. So especially after a good start, for it then to drop off, I'd say that's even tougher to do, because you get, like I said, the hope and the expectation of something could be good. For it then to be right, we need to like get some results here and put in some performances, otherwise it could be something really bad, which I never want to experience in my career. I know no one ever wants to experience a relegation or even a proper relegation scrap. So for me it was a lot more responsibility. Last year was my first year, no one really expected too much. Everything was a bonus, whereas this year it's, especially when we were struggling, it's right, I need to score, I need to put in some good performances, because I need to get us out of some, the rut that we're in. And I know a couple of lads felt like that and played like that, so I know it'll bode well for the rest of my career, like feeling like that going into a game and then being able to like deliver in certain moments. So if anything, like that's almost like a bit more sweet, like when you know that you need to almost get us out of something and then you produce like a moment of something. It's like, I don't know, it's like that is a big relief, because there's like a long time where it's like, right, we didn't win this game, like someone else won a game, they're creeping up on points, like we need to get something on the table. So it's a different kind of pressure, but because it's not a pressure I've experienced before, it's an interesting experience for me.
And the thing I like to do when I wrap these up is I like to ask you one question. If you could give yourself some advice, 12-year-old Kian going into that Middlesbrough academy, what would that one piece of advice be to yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd say don't overthink too much about other people's opinions. You always have a lot of people in your ear about like telling you what people think of you, telling you like about this, about yourself, about that, about your game, and a lot of it hasn't been said. A lot of it's nonsense. It's all you can do is go out each time on the pitch, each time you train, play as well as you can, and then if people are having you, they're having you. If people aren't, then you can't do anything. So don't go in with any preconceived ideas that, do you know what I mean, people are saying anything or having certain opinions of you, because most likely it's not true.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.